Hello class 9. This is fourth chapter atomic structure and chemical bonding, and today we will cover atoms, Dalton's atomic theory, modern atomic theory, and discovery of electrons and protons. We have a piece of paper and we are dividing it. We divide it into further and further into halves. So, what stage can you reach so that you're not able to divide it further? Years back, a Greek philosopher named Democritus came up with the idea of atoms. Atoms comes from the Greek word atomos, which means indivisible, which cannot be divided further. According to Democritus, anything which is divided can be divided up to the stage where it reaches atoms. Nothing can be divided further atoms. So, everything in the world, from a tall Eiffel Tower to books, chairs to table, everything that you see around you is made up of atoms. Well, does this contradict what you studied in biology? In biology, you must have studied that the cell is the smallest living unit. Right now, I'm saying atom is the smallest unit. Well, no, I'm not contradicting with the concepts of biology. Cell is the smallest living unit. These cells are further made up of atoms. So everything in the world, living or non-living, from a small insect to plants to animals, including us, are made up of atoms. So atom is the smallest unit of everything. Next is Dalton's atomic theory. First scientific theory about atoms was given by a scientist named John Dalton. He said that atom is a solid hard sphere. It is neutral so that it has no charge in it. According to Dalton, an atom is a solid hard sphere. Along with it, he gave some other points about atoms. Let's see. First is all matter is made up of tiny particles called atoms. Like a wall is made up of small bricks, similarly, all forms of matter is made up of tiny particles called atoms. If you take a small piece of banana and a bigger piece, so you taste both, you know a small piece of banana tastes the same as a bigger piece of banana. Likewise, if you take a small piece of watermelon, it tastes the same as the entire big piece of watermelon. Does a banana taste like watermelon? No, they are different. Similarly, all atoms of same elements are alike. You see, all atoms of gold are alike, but let's see atoms of silver. We observe that all atoms of silver are alike, but the atoms of gold are different from silver. So, all atoms of same elements are alike, but are different from the atoms of any other elements. Let's say we have a group of children in a school. You know you cannot fix any number to that. It can be any number. Similarly, group of people in a tea stall. It can be any number. You cannot fix a number for a group of people sitting at a tea stall. But if we talk about a cricket team, like Indian cricket team, we have a fixed number of players plays a match. So when atoms combine, they combine in a fixed proportion to form compounds. Like two hydrogen atom and one oxygen atom combine so that they could form a water molecule. Say you are given a four materials: bricks, cement, marble, granite, and you have to make different structures of buildings from this. You know, just by rearranging these four materials in different forms, you can form a number of different structures. You can form buildings, you can form pyramids, you can form Taj Mahal, you can form forts, etc. But the basic materials remains the same, that is bricks, granites, marbles, and cements. Similarly, a chemical reaction involves a rearrangement of atoms, not a change in the atom themselves. The question is, according to Dalton, what takes part in a chemical reaction? So it is very simple. Atom is the smallest unit, so atom takes part in a chemical reaction. Next is modern atomic theory. Before this, we studied Dalton's atomic theory. Dalton's atomic theory had so many postulates that we have seen, but after a certain period of time, it came to know that there are many mistakes in postulates because many new things were discovered. Then, Dalton's atomic theory was modified and named it modern atomic theory. Every problem in the theory was corrected, so we can call modern atomic theory also as drawbacks of Dalton's atomic theory. Let's go to the first postulates of modern atomic theory. If you could remember Dalton's atomic theory, Dalton said that the atomic particles are indivisible, we cannot divide it further. Atoms is the smallest one. But after a long time, it was found that atoms are not indivisible. In fact, they can be divided into subatomic particles known as electrons, protons, and neutrons. And electrons are negatively charged, protons are positively charged, and neutrons have no charge. We will come back to this topic later. Second is, Dalton in his theory told that all atoms of an element will have same mass and same chemical properties. But after some time, it came to know that the atoms present in an element will have different masses but same chemical properties, which is also known as isotopes. And the third is, atoms of different elements can have same mass. Dalton in his theory told that the atoms of two different elements will have different mass and different properties. But now, according to this theory, the atoms of two different elements may have same mass though they belong to different elements, which is also known as isobars. We'll come back to this topic later. Next is discovery of electrons and protons. Many years later, a scientist named William Crookes performed an experiment using an apparatus known as cathode ray tube. He connected this terminal to a negative terminal of the battery and this end to the positive terminal of the battery. Then he switched on the battery. He observed that the beam passed from the negative terminal to the positive terminal. William Crookes called this ray passing from negative terminal to the positive terminal as a cathode ray. In physics, you have studied unlike charges attracts and like charges repel. So if this beam moved from negative terminal to the positive terminal, that is, it is attracted towards the positive charge. So this should be negatively charged. A scientist named J.J. Thomson wanted to verify that this cathode ray consists of negatively charged particle. Then he repeats the experiment and he bought a negatively charged rod near the beam. As he brings the rod near the beam, it gets deflected. It moved away from the rod. So the cathode ray consists of negatively charged particles. Thomson concluded that cathode ray consists of negatively charged particles, now called electrons. These negatively charged particles are an important part of all atoms. Electrons have both definite mass and definite electrical charge. Some years later, a scientist named Goldstein, he performed the same experiment again. He observed that when cathode rays moves from negative to positive terminal, at the same time a beam moves from the positive to negative terminal. He called this beam as anode rays. So if the beam moved towards negative terminal, that means it should be positively charged. So from this experiment, it was concluded that anode rays consist of positively charged particle, now called protons. These positively charged particles are an important part of all atoms, and protons have both definite mass and definite electrical charge. Let's revise. We have two terminal, negative and positive terminal. Beam which moves from negative to positive terminal is known as cathode rays. Since it is attracted towards the positive terminal, so the particle is electrons and negatively charged. Another is beam, which moves from positive to negative terminal, is known as anode rays. Since it is attracted towards the negative terminal, so the particles is protons and positively charged.